Everyone's waiting for the next bull run. They're refreshing charts, watching candlesticks twitch up and down, arguing over MACD crosses, RSI divergence, and Fibonacci retracements. They're posting moon memes, hoping, guessing, gambling. They think we're gearing up for the same old script. A wave of retail euphoria, a surge of liquidity, and a flood of hype-fueled tokens rocketing to impossible highs. But they're not just wrong. They're looking in the completely wrong direction. Because this isn't a bull run. This is a reset, a quiet, coordinated overhaul of the global financial system. The legacy stack, decades old, riddled with inefficiencies, controlled by gatekeepers, is being disassembled behind closed doors. Governments, institutions, and infrastructure players aren't tweeting about it, but they're executing on it, methodically, legally, and permanently. What's rising in its place isn't speculation. It's structure. A structure built on interoperability, speed, transparency, and programmatic trust. It's not a flash in the pan. It's the new base layer of global finance. And leading the charge? Not dog coins, not hype coins, not your favorite low-cap gem on page 3 of CoinMarketCap. The real momentum is behind the utility layer giants, XRP, XLM, HBAR. XRP, the liquidity engine for frictionless global settlement, already aligned with institutions and regulators. XLM, the connective tissue for financial access across borders, permissionless, lightweight, built for global money movement. HBAR, the enterprise-grade ledger trusted by multinational corporations for real-world applications in payments, compliance, and data integrity. These aren't pump and dumps. These are digital infrastructure rails. They aren't riding waves. They're laying the pipes through which future trillions will flow. And while most retail investors are chasing candles, these networks are onboarding central banks, integrating with payment hubs, and solving problems the mainstream isn't even aware of yet. This is the shift from a speculative, retail-driven playground to a utility-driven, enterprise-grade financial system. If you're still treating this like a typical cycle, you'll miss the biggest transition of your lifetime. Because what's unfolding is not a phase. It's a permanent, systemic reprogramming of how value moves across the globe. So if you care about being ahead, act like it. Subscribe to stay on top of the shifts the media still isn't talking about. Save this video because when the floodgates open and the headlines finally catch up, this will be the thread that made it all click. Share this with a friend who's still chasing meme coins. Someone who needs to know the real wealth is built before the hype arrives. This isn't about price predictions. It's about protocol adoption. This isn't a bull run. This is the reset. Let's break it down. Everyone's waiting for the next bull run. They've got alerts set, YouTube influencers on repeat, wallets packed with tokens they barely understand, all in the hope that history will repeat itself. That another 2017 or 2021 style rocket ship is coming. That they'll catch the next one. But this time, it's different. What's happening right now isn't a bull run. It's a reset. A deep structural rewiring of how money moves, how trust is encoded, and how value will flow across the planet for decades to come. While most of retail is staring at charts, praying for green candles, the real action is happening in boardrooms, legislative chambers, and enterprise development labs. It's quiet, it's intentional, and it's permanent. The old financial stack based on centralized banks, outdated rails, and middlemen is being retired. Not with fireworks, but with regulatory clarity, digital asset integrations, and back-end overhauls that will never trend on Twitter. And replacing it? A new system, a new stack, decentralized, programmatic, trustless, global. And at the core of that stack isn't Bitcoin. It isn't Doge. It isn't whatever pumped 10x last week. It's utility assets, purpose-built, battle-tested, engineered for scale. XRP, the institutional-grade liquidity protocol solving cross-border inefficiencies that have existed for decades. XLM, the decentralized bridge giving unbanked populations access to financial infrastructure at near-zero cost. HBAR, the enterprise-grade public network trusted by global players for its unmatched speed, governance, and security. These aren't hype coins. These are infrastructure. So if you're still asking when bull, You're asking the wrong question. The real question is, are you positioned for the system that's being built to replace everything you know? If not, now's the time to tune in. Not later. Now. The shift you're not seeing. Look, the loudest people in crypto are still chasing pumps. They're obsessed with price charts, RSI, support lines, golden crosses. They talk like we're in 2021. Like meme coins and hype cycles are still running the show. But beneath all that noise, something much bigger is happening. Governments, central banks, and Fortune 500 companies aren't betting on frogs with funny names. They're building infrastructure, on-chain, quietly, relentlessly. And here's what they know that retail doesn't. Crypto isn't about price anymore. It's about position. Position in the new rails of finance. Position in regulatory clarity. Position in networks that can scale globally without breaking. And that's why XRP, XLM, and HBAR keep showing up in the rooms that actually matter. XRP, liquidity infrastructure for the Internet of Value. Ripple isn't waiting for the SEC to throw a party. They've already launched Rlust, a US-backed stablecoin. They're securing licenses globally, building corridors, powering ODL, on-demand liquidity solutions for actual banks, not just DeFi bros in Discord. This isn't theory. This is execution. When the financial system shifts from SWIFT to seamless digital liquidity, XRP will be the backbone, not the meme. XLM. Financial inclusion, real-time access. Stellar isn't making noise on Twitter because they're too busy building real-world solutions. They're powering cross-border payment infrastructure in underserved regions, helping the unbanked get access to digital dollars in seconds. They're already doing what governments say they want to do with CBDCs, but without the surveillance. If you think this tech is just for speculation, you're missing its mission. Inclusion. HBAR. Enterprise-grade everything. Hedera isn't just another chain. It's governed by titans Google, IBM, Boeing, LG, Dell, and more. Its use cases aren't promises, they're live. From healthcare to supply chains, carbon tracking to asset tokenization. HBR isn't trying to be cool. It's trying to be foundational. And guess what? That's exactly what institutions want. So while people are debating the next memecoin to 10x, the new system is already being installed. Not next year. Not in the next bull run. Now. And the networks being installed aren't the loudest, they're the most useful. The lock-in, regulation, stablecoins, and real-world assets, RWAs. You want to know why this time is different? Because the things that used to scare institutions, volatility, legal risk, gray zones, are being eliminated right now. This isn't the Wild West anymore. It's being fenced, paved, and wired for global adoption. Let's break it down. Regulation isn't a threat. It's the green light. Forget the fear tactics. Regulation isn't here to kill crypto. It's here to filter it. The speculative fluff is getting cleared out. But the protocols with real-world use cases and compliance in their DNA, they're being fast-tracked. XRP's partial win against the SEC wasn't just a legal battle. It was a precedent. One that opens the door for institutional liquidity, banking integration, and tokenized assets to go mainstream. And guess what? MiCA is already live in Europe. Hong Kong and Singapore are opening regulated crypto corridors. The US is moving slower, but when they move, the entire planet shifts. This is the regulatory phase before mass onboarding. Stablecoins are the Trojans behind the walls. Rlust from Ripple isn't just another dollar token. It's a signal. A signal that stablecoins are the new rails for global payments. They're the bridge between TradFi and DeFi, between old money and programmable liquidity. But here's the kicker. The battle for stablecoin dominance is already underway, and XRP is positioning itself at the intersection of compliance, liquidity, and global reach. That's not a hype coin move. That's a chess move. RWAs, the dollar trillion on-chain migration has begun. If crypto's first era was about digital assets, this next era is about digitizing everything else. Real estate, bonds, equities, carbon credits, intellectual property, and even sovereign currencies. Institutions aren't asking if they should tokenize. They're asking how fast can we move? Guess which networks they're using? HBAR, XRP, Stellar. The ones built for throughput, identity, compliance, and scale. RWAs are the final nail in the coffin of the old system, because when you can move any asset at the speed of the internet, the gatekeepers lose control. Bottom line? The old system isn't just evolving, it's being replaced. And the new system won't be loud. It won't be hyped. It will just work. While retail waits for green candles, institutions are quietly plugging into the stack that will power the next 50 years of global finance. The flip, why the banks are panicking, and you should be paying attention. Let's be blunt. The same institutions that once called crypto a scam are now fighting behind the scenes. Not if they should get in, but how much ground they've already lost. Because here's the reality. The infrastructure shift is already happening, and they're not in control of it. And that terrifies them. The banks aren't leading. They're chasing. You've seen the headlines. You've heard the FUD. But under the surface, banks are scrambling to retrofit decades-old infrastructure to keep up with blockchain rails. Why? Because on-chain finance is faster, cheaper, programmable, and borderless. SWIFT takes days. XRP ledger settles in seconds. No middlemen. No weekend delays. No excuses. They're not adapting out of innovation. They're adapting out of survival. The liquidity drain is real, and it's accelerating. Every time a government or institution mints a tokenized bond, every time a stablecoin like Rust gains adoption, every time an RWA gets tokenized, that's liquidity permanently migrating to a new system. One that doesn't need clearing houses. One that doesn't need correspondent banks. One that doesn't need them. And once liquidity leaves, it doesn't come back. This is the Amazon moment, but for finance. Remember when bookstores laughed at Amazon? Remember when taxis dismissed Uber? That's what's happening to finance right now. And Ripple, with Rust, ODL corridors, and real-world compliance, is positioning itself as the AWS of finance. The infrastructure layer no one sees, but everything runs on. You don't need permission to front-run institutions. Here's the beauty of this moment. You don't have to wait for a fund manager. You don't need BlackRock to bless your decision. You're early, painfully early. And while they fight for regulatory clarity and boardroom consensus, you can position yourself now ahead of the tsunami. Because when this new financial internet goes fully online, the doors don't swing open, they lock shut. If you're still sitting on the sidelines thinking this is just another hype cycle, ask yourself, why are the banks panicking if nothing is happening? Why are governments suddenly tokenizing their bonds? Why are stablecoins being pushed into compliance frameworks globally? The play is happening with or without you, and by the time it's obvious, it'll be too late to be early. This is your signal, don't miss the reset. Let's be absolutely clear about where we are right now. What's unfolding isn't the beginning of a typical bull run. This isn't the same dance of retail hype, memes, and over-leveraged speculation we've seen in cycles past. What we are witnessing is far more serious, far more structural, and far more permanent. This is the end of the old financial system as we know it. The collapse isn't going to come with fireworks or dramatic announcements. It's already underway. Silently, subtly, and surgically. And what's replacing it isn't chaos. It's a new financial stack, built on utility, interoperability, speed, and real-world use cases. While most people are still watching charts, hoping for their favorite meme coin to bounce back, the global infrastructure value is quietly being rewritten by assets and protocols like XRP, XLM, HBAR, and others that are solving trillion-dollar problems at the foundation of commerce, banking, and government. This isn't about chasing pumps. This is about being strategically positioned before the rest of the world understands what's coming. Before the media changes the narrative. Before your favorite influencer flips their opinion. Before institutions make their moves obvious. And here's the truth. By the time the headlines confirm what we're saying now, the biggest opportunities will already be gone. The doors will still be open but not wide. The cost of entry will be higher. And the velocity of change will be faster than most people can keep up with. So this is what you do now, not later. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stop reacting to price action and start anticipating where the world is actually going. Save this video because in a few months or years, when everything we've laid out becomes undeniable, you'll want to remember that you heard it early. Share this with one person you care about, especially if they're still caught in the noise. Give them the chance to plug into clarity before the crowd does. Go beyond surface-level narratives. Understand the actual technology, the legal shifts, the institutional signals. Because that's how you build conviction. And conviction is how you stay early, even when the market tries to shake you out. You've just been handed a rare perspective, the kind most people don't get until it's too late. The next financial era is not just being built. It's already live. It's global, it's decentralized, and it doesn't care who's watching, only who's prepared. This isn't just the evolution of finance. This is the birth of the financial internet, and like the early days of the web, most people will miss it because they don't recognize it. But you do. So now the choice is yours. Will you watch it happen from the sidelines? Or will you position yourself inside the reset, ahead of the masses, ahead of the narrative, ahead of the shift? History won't wait, and neither will this transformation. Be early, be ready, be part of it.